Welcome to another episode of Intuitive Reactions, the MENA and Gulf regions. Yesterday evening, 30th of May, Sarah Agha and I spoke at an event organized by Our Lady of Victory's Catholic Church in the heart of the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea in London. The hall was full, in itself very encouraging, and the event was moderated by Mgr James Curry, who, among his other titles, is also chair of Friends of the Holy Land. You might already perhaps know that Sarah Agha, writer and actor, was co-presenter along with Rob Rinder of the recent BBC Two documentary, The Holy Land and Us, Our Untold Stories. In a nutshell, this documentary had offered in its 2 episodes the Palestinian as well as Israeli narratives for what happened in Palestine in 1948. For Jews, 1948 meant the creation of their state and a celebration of their independence, Yom HaAtzmaut. For Palestinians, conversely, it meant dispossession and the loss of land, and is also commemorated every May as the Nakba, or the Great Catastrophe. Independence versus dispossession in the same event. Does it not remind you perhaps of the adage coined initially by the Roman poet and philosopher Lucretius in the 1st century BC, that one man's meat is also another man's poison? My episode today isn't meant to reproduce a 90-minute Full House event. Both Sarah and I made our contributions, deftly orchestrated and choreographed by the moderator. Sarah spoke about her role, her expectations, and her reactions to the BBC Two documentary that has already been viewed by well over 1 million times and is available on BBC iPlayer. You can incidentally find the link in my description box. I, on the other hand, focused more on the political and ecumenical aspects of the Israel-Palestine conflict. I shared with the participants the genesis of the word Nakba that became identified with the Palestinian losses in 1948 via the work of a Syrian Christian intellectual and historian, Constantin Zraik, who wrote his Ma'na al-Nakba, the significance of the Nakba in 1948, about this loss, and pretty much helped make the Palestinian experiences of massive territorial and personal loss synonymous with this word Nakba. I also spoke about the politics of the conflict, the role that the UK played in this chapter of events, starting with Lord Balfour's restorationist Christian roots that led him to pledge in 1917 that Jews should be peopled in Palestine, all the way to 1948, when British foreign policy washed its hands off the mandate of Palestine and handed responsibility to the UN. I then also spoke about the peace-seeking role of the 13 traditional churches of Jerusalem in opposing injustice and occupation of lands, as well as the work of ecumenical churches and monitors like the EAPPI, all the way to my own work as a Track 2 negotiator during the now defunct Oslo chapter. And do remember, all this did not only happen in 1948. It's also happening today as I record this short YouTube episode. But in my remaining few minutes, I want to leave secular or church politics aside. You can check my links in the description box or go back to my Epictasis website or previous YouTube episodes. Today, here and now, I'd rather ask the question, what can you do as part of the efforts What could the full house that met in the church hall yesterday do in terms of advocacy for peace and justice with security? Let me share a few basic suggestions. 1. Speak out boldly about the conflict. Don't shy away. Don't hide your views. You have justice on your side. So don't be like many of our lily-livered politicians. Speak out. 2. Lobby with your representatives, your local councillors, your MPs, your university fora, your public agoras, trade unions or arenas, your circles too, if the subject comes up. Don't dither. Just say it as it is. After all, look at the behavior of some of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ministers. It's a definition of religious settler colonialism, which is what? It is a mode of domination characterized by what the historian Patrick Wolf termed in his article in 2006 as a logic of elimination. Look at some of the illegal settlers' actions as they uproot Palestinian olive trees, burn fields, harass Palestinian residents from Masafer Yatta in the south of the West Bank all the way to Nablus in the north. All this and much more structural violence under the protection of the Israeli army. Say it as you see it, even if this makes you a bit unpopular. And don't be terrified by the accusations of anti-Semitism. To my mind, and despite the IHRA definition, there is a huge difference between anti-Semitism that I personally abhor with utter contempt and anti-Israel government policies. 3. Visit the Holy Land and acquaint yourself with these untold stories that Sarah teased out in her BBC Two documentary. And for Christian pilgrims who are truly faith-based and not merely ideology-driven or stuck in biblical time warps, walk slowly where Jesus walked and meet the local Christians in order to listen to their stories. They're men and women with stories of hope and despair aligned very closely together. Be responsible in your tourism. Undertake alternative activities. Take a taxi, go to Ramallah and meet a Palestinian parish priest, or go to Bir Zayt, 15 minutes away from Ramallah, and visit the beautiful Palestine Museum there. In short, show your solidarity. 4. Locally, here for us in the UK, join in or encourage cultural and artistic activities that celebrate the Palestinian identity. What about the Bethlehem Cultural Festival or the Shubak Festival that happens every summer and is pan-Arab in its programs? Sarah Agha has a long list of cultural activities that highlight the Palestinian identity. You can also find a few in order to highlight and encourage them. Go on your search engine, check Palestine Solidarity Campaign, for instance. They're a British charity that's full of facts, figures, and also activities. Finally, let me come back to our Al-Nakba event with Sarah and I in the church hall yesterday. I'll conclude with a quote from a tweet by Rabbi David Mivaseir, who once also served in the Ahavat Olam Progressive Synagogue in Vancouver. In his tweet on social media, which I think pretty much sums up everything that we said at the church hall yesterday and what I'm trying to share with you in this YouTube today, he commented on the Nakba, which, as the novelist Ilyas Khoury and a myriad other pundits have asserted, is not merely an event that took place in 1948. It is an ongoing process to this date. The rabbi wrote on social media, imagine your entire family, your entire community, your land, all destroyed by outsiders who send you into exile and never allow you back, and then who spin stories about how they are victims. This is the Palestinian story. This is the Palestinian tragic losses. This is the Palestinian narrative of Al-Nakba. So thanks once more for those who voted with their feet and filled the hall for our little event. Thanks to Our Lady of Victories and to friends of the Holy Land, as well as to friends who were with us, ordinary people who just came and packed the room. And don't be afraid to support justice. Don't be afraid to support and chase hope. Don't just walk the walk, talk the talk too.